Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand.
She might have a lawsuit too.
Singer Dawn Richard testifies that Sean Diddy Combs hit Cassie Ventura with a skillet full of eggs.
You got to go back to the drugs and the alcohol, man. The drugs and the alcohol, man. And those things will make you do strange things.
What could silence a courtroom? Dawn Richard's testimony about Cassie's alleged abuse by Diddy stunned everyone into silence. Brace yourself for the shocking revelations that exposed a hidden, unimaginable reality.
Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand. The defense hit her hard during cross-examination, asking her about a stint in rehab for PTSD, a rape allegation, and asking her to read explicit text messages from over the past 15 years.
Richard accused Combs of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and a hostile work environment by being exposed to sex trafficking and sex acts. She also alleged that she was a victim of false imprisonment. In her suit, Richard stated she was seeking compensatory and punitive damages, as well as other costs for post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and emotional suffering, and financial losses she suffered as a result of Combs' alleged behavior. Combs has denied her allegations. His lawyer told E! News in September, Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. Richard's testimony in Combs' ongoing trial comes 8 months after she accused the rapper in a lawsuit of subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit, filed in September, obtained by E! News, stated, Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Ms. Richard wearing only his underwear, despite Ms. Richard's protests and repeated requests for him to put on clothing. In her filing, the 41-year-old also alleged that Combs ordered her to strip down to her underwear, made demeaning remarks about her body, and entered her dressing room unannounced while she was unclothed, and touched her without her permission under the guise of showing the stylist what to do.
When Dawn Richard took the stand, the energy in the courtroom shifted instantly. Best known as a former member of Diddy Kane, the girl group formed under Sean Diddy Combs' management, Dawn wasn't just a former collaborator. She was someone who had been deeply embedded in Diddy's inner circle. That proximity made her testimony one of the most pivotal moments during the trial's first week. Observers expected her to shed light on the dynamics behind the scenes, but few were prepared for the gravity of what she revealed. Her words didn't just add to the noise surrounding the case, they pierced through it, offering raw, first-hand insight that left the courtroom stunned into silence. Dawn's connection to both Diddy and Cassie wasn't merely professional, it was personal. As part of Diddy Kane, she had worked closely with Diddy on a daily basis, observing his behavior both in public and behind closed doors. She also had a relationship with Cassie, Diddy's longtime partner, whose life had long appeared glamorous to outsiders. But Dawn's testimony painted a far darker picture, one that revealed a deeply troubling side of a relationship many thought they understood. From the moment she began speaking, her voice reportedly carried a mixture of pain and conviction, as if she'd been waiting years to finally tell her truth. She described multiple incidents in which Diddy allegedly exploded in anger, creating an atmosphere of fear and control. According to Dawn, these outbursts were not isolated or occasional. They were part of a larger pattern, and Cassie was often the one caught in the storm. One particular account stood out. Dawn described an intense argument in which Diddy reportedly screamed at Cassie with such ferocity that Cassie's physical reaction, her body language, her retreat, revealed the emotional toll his words had taken. It wasn't just yelling, Dawn said. It was psychological warfare. The tone, the manipulation, the feeling of powerlessness, she made it clear this wasn't about hearsay. She had witnessed it firsthand. For Dawn, that moment became seared into memory, and she emphasized that it wasn't an isolated event. It was one of several situations in which she saw Cassie seemingly trapped, emotionally and psychologically, under Diddy's control. Her account gave weight to the rumors and whispers that had followed Diddy and Cassie's relationship for years. It was no longer speculation, it was personal testimony from someone who had seen the cracks beneath the polished surface. Legal experts in the courtroom noted the significance of her testimony. It's one thing to hear general allegations, it's another to listen to a credible witness recount specific, harrowing details. For the jury, such testimony has a visceral impact. It transforms abstract claims into vivid scenes that are hard to ignore. Diddy's reaction spoke volumes. As Dawn recounted her experiences, reporters observed a shift in his demeanor. He grew visibly tense, leaned toward his legal team, and his expression darkened. Though he remained silent, it was evident that her words were shaking the foundation of his carefully maintained public persona. But the moment that truly hit home, the line that echoed throughout the courtroom and beyond, came when Dawn said she believed Cassie had spent most of her time just trying to survive. Those words hung heavy in the air. They distilled years of alleged emotional and physical abuse into one devastating truth. This wasn't just about control or arguments. It was about a woman who, according to Dawn, had lived in a state of fear, isolation, and psychological captivity. Her testimony marked a turning point. It didn't just support Cassie's claims, it gave them depth and urgency. It brought clarity to a narrative that had, until then, relied heavily on implication and past reports. Dawn's account wove those threads together into a stark and undeniable portrait of life behind the scenes. As the first week of the trial wrapped, the courtroom remained under the weight of her words. More witnesses are expected to testify in the coming days, many of whom also had personal or professional ties to Diddy and Cassie. But Dawn's testimony has already shifted the trajectory of the case. It has set a tone, framed a context, and opened the door for more voices to come forward. Whether her words will ultimately sway the jury remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. Dawn Richards' testimony didn't just make headlines. It cracked open a silence that had lasted far too long.
If she witnessed, and she's saying that she witnessed a gangbang, which actually we know it as called a train. And she worked on the album, The Train to Paris. And like I heard one of the YouTube, it could be Tistel, say that we didn't know what the train to Paris meant. But now we know that the train to Paris was a train in Scotland. It wasn't a train in Paris. It was a train in Scotland. Every time I have a witness doing something is when two guys and two girls will go in the room. And that was just regular. And however they did it, whatever they did, that was their business. But he gotten bold enough, whereas that he would do that in front of Dawn and other people at a poolside in Scotland. You sure it was Scotland, man?
Danity Kane alum Don Richard, who began working with Sean Diddy Combs while competing on his show Making the Band in 2004, took the stand after Cassie wrapped her testimony May 16th. Richard joined Combs' group Diddy Dirty Money after Danity Kane disbanded. While on the stand, she told jurors that she saw Combs hit Ventura with a skillet full of eggs at his Los Angeles home in 2009. Richard testified per NBC News. He came downstairs asking where his phone was, and he threw her to the ground. He attempted to kick her. She fell to the ground and went into the fetal position, literally trying to hide her head. In addition to striking Ventura with the skillet, Richard said Combs put his arm around the singer's neck and took her upstairs before she heard glass breaking. Richard added, "I was scared for her. I was scared to do anything."
The tension in the courtroom reached a new peak when a pivotal piece of evidence was introduced, an audio recording featuring Cassie. On the tape, she is reportedly heard confronting a close associate of Sean Diddy Combs, an associate who allegedly possessed video footage of a violent altercation between Cassie and Diddy. The reaction in the room was instant. Jurors visibly stiffened. Reporters exchanged glances. What could be so powerful that it left even seasoned legal professionals speechless? That recording marked a crucial turning point in the trial, offering not only a glimpse into the toxic nature of Diddy and Cassie's relationship, but also a raw and emotional window into Cassie's state of mind at the time. The tape, played aloud in the courtroom, carried a weight that words alone couldn't replicate. Cassie's voice trembled with fury, desperation, and fear. Legal observers noted that her tone wasn't cold or calculated. It was the voice of someone pushed to her emotional brink. Her threats didn't read as acts of aggression, but rather as the cries of someone feeling cornered, broken, and out of options. What we know from the tape is this: Cassie is heard addressing a man believed to be one of Diddy's trusted insiders. This individual allegedly had evidence, recorded footage, of a volatile incident involving her and Diddy. Cassie's voice shifts between pleading and confrontational, demanding answers and making threats to protect herself. The rawness in her tone was unmistakable. And it wasn't just about fear of exposure. It was about surviving in a world where she reportedly had no control. Legal analysts were quick to point out that such behavior is not uncommon in cases involving long-term abuse. When someone has endured years of manipulation, fear, and psychological distress, their actions can appear extreme, but those actions often emerge from relentless emotional trauma. One analyst said the recording added layers of complexity, painting a picture not just of abuse, but of the long-term mental toll that relationship may have taken on Cassie. The tape wasn't a triumphant moment of someone finally standing up for herself. It was messy, emotional, and heartbreaking. It revealed a woman living in fight-or-flight mode, reacting not with strategy, but with raw survival instinct. For the jury, it complicated the narrative even further. The recording alone might not serve as conclusive evidence of abuse, but in combination with Dawn Richards' powerful testimony and other accounts, it contributed to a vivid and unsettling portrait of Cassie's reality. Still, the defense is expected to strike back hard. Diddy's legal team will likely argue that Cassie's emotional outburst discredits her testimony, using the tape to paint her as unstable and unreliable. This is a familiar strategy in high-profile abuse cases, shift the focus from the accused's behavior to the accuser's credibility. An insider suggests this is just the beginning. Rumors are swirling that Cassie's mental health, past relationships, and private life will soon come under intense scrutiny by the defense. But here's the truth. This tape isn't just about one moment of anger. It's about the dynamics behind that moment. For years, Diddy has been cast as a powerful, untouchable force in the entertainment industry, while Cassie was largely seen as the quiet, glamorous girlfriend. This recording shattered that illusion. It gave her a voice, and it showed what happens when someone silenced for too long tries to fight back. As the trial moves forward, one question hangs over the courtroom. Will the defense succeed in discrediting Cassie, or will more testimony and evidence further expose the dark truths behind her relationship with Diddy? One thing is clear, the jury is no longer just weighing legal arguments. They're now confronting a deeply tangled story of power, control, and emotional fallout. And whatever comes next could change everything.
Things that she's going to have to bring up into the lawsuit, that Diddy stopped the way that she was working and how she could work by the fact that he would change. Like you just said, what she would do, bro, he would turn off her mic and don't let her sing songs or don't let her do certain things, a part of the band, when he do her sexual advancements. I don't know what to say about that, brother. All I can say is that, all of it sounds like using his power. He's using his power to get at people that works for him. And when you do that, when they bring you to court, 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose if they can prove it.
One text message, Cassie writes, "I'm lost without you."
We know now that she called herself Cece for Cassie Combs. We know now that she wanted to have a child with him.
Jurors also heard an audio recording where Cassie could be heard threatening to kill a Diddy associate who had video of one of her freak-offs with Diddy.
The jurors were shocked. I saw the eyebrows raised.
Cassie was asked about receiving a FaceTime from her now husband while she was having sex with Diddy.
I think they're trying to use what they can, again, to discredit her as a...
The defense's plan to undermine Cassie by exposing her personal history, rehab stints, PTSD struggles, and even a past rape allegation was meant to paint her as emotionally unstable and untrustworthy. By spotlighting these vulnerabilities, they sought to sow seeds of doubt in the jury's mind. If Cassie was battling trauma, how reliable could her testimony be? But instead of eroding her credibility, this line of attack unexpectedly humanized Cassie and underscored the very power dynamics at the heart of her claims against Diddy. Legal analysts watching the trial noted that by thrusting her past into the spotlight, the defense inadvertently highlighted how someone in Cassie's shoes could be manipulated and controlled over time. One particularly potent piece of evidence was a string of intimate text messages between Cassie and Diddy, including one where she confessed, "I'm lost without you." The defense seized on these messages to argue that Cassie's relationship with Diddy was consensual and mutually dependent. Yet experts on trauma and abuse testified that survivors often exhibit intense attachment to their abusers, not because the abuse isn't real, but because prolonged manipulation erodes their sense of self and alternatives. Far from discrediting Cassie, these texts painted a portrait of a woman ensnared by a relationship where love, fear, and control were inextricably mixed. Her messages conveyed desperation as much as devotion, evidence analysts say, of someone caught in an emotional tug-of-war rather than a willing partner. Moreover, recounting her PTSD diagnosis and rehab stay appeared to shift the courtroom's perception. What the defense intended as ammunition to attack her mental stability instead read like the aftermath of enduring trauma. Many jurors and observers remarked that this revelation laid bare the potential fallout of a relationship marked by power imbalances and psychological coercion. The strategy of character assassination is a familiar one in high-profile abuse cases. Highlight inconsistencies, dig into past struggles, and sow just enough doubt to tip the scales. But in Cassie's case, every attempt to undermine her seemed to strengthen the core allegations. Each personal detail, once twisted to suggest unreliability, became evidence of how slowly and thoroughly Diddy's alleged control had taken root. By forcing Cassie to relive painful episodes from her past, the defense may have unwittingly magnified the impact of earlier testimonies, like Dawn Richards, by tying them to Cassie's lived experience. The contrast between a powerful industry titan and a partner grappling with mental health challenges only reinforced the notion of an uneven playing field. As the trial progresses, additional witnesses, former Donity Kane members, insiders from Diddy's camp, and others close to the couple, are slated to testify. Their accounts will inevitably interact with Cassie's backstory, layering on further context and complexity. Ultimately, the defense's gambit to frame Cassie as unstable may go down as a pivotal misstep. Instead of dismantling her case, it has woven her personal struggles into the larger narrative of coercion and control. What began as an effort to discredit has, paradoxically, deepened the jury's understanding of the stakes involved, and of how power, manipulation, and trauma can shape a relationship from inside out.
Unfortunately, we're all going to take a disgusting trip to his seedy, awful world. You know, the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual.
The facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear.
That Ventura had a choice and that she chose to participate in those sexual encounters.
Where she is entertaining other people in the bedroom. He enjoyed having the freak-offs.
She's being asked specifically about the drug use.
She is clearly excited about freak-off.
The courtroom drama takes a new turn with Aubrey O'Day emerging as a pivotal figure in this already explosive trial. As another former member of Donity Kane, Aubrey is set to share her first-hand experience working under Diddy's management. Everyone is eager to find out, what has she seen? What does she know? And how will her testimony shape the unfolding story? But Aubrey isn't the only one stepping forward. Several of Diddy's former employees, some intimately familiar with both his personal and professional life, are also preparing to testify. Each new witness adds another layer to the complex web unraveling in the courtroom, making the allegations harder to ignore. Dawn Richards' testimony sent shockwaves through the trial's early days, offering a grim glimpse into Cassie's alleged abuse. Her words challenged the carefully curated image Diddy has maintained publicly, forcing jurors to rethink everything they thought they knew. Now, with Aubrey ready to speak, the patterns of control and toxicity suggested may become even more detailed. Aubrey's unique position gives her testimony special weight. Having worked with Diddy during Donity Kane's peak, she likely witnessed the behind-the-scenes dynamics that others might not have seen. This trial isn't just about isolated incidents, it's building toward exposing a potential, ongoing pattern of behavior. Her outspoken nature about the difficulties of working under Diddy adds another compelling dimension. While she has not previously accused him of abuse directly, her candidness about his demanding management style and high-pressure environment makes her testimony one to watch closely. If she corroborates claims made by Cassie and Dawn, it could strengthen the narrative of consistent behavior stretching across years. Legal experts emphasize the power of multiple testimonies. When stories align across different witnesses, it's much harder to dismiss them as anomalies or misunderstandings. Dawn's detailed account of witnessing Cassie endure Diddy's anger and manipulation already had a profound impact. Now, with Aubrey's voice added, the jury will start to see these episodes as parts of a broader, troubling pattern. The inclusion of former employees is equally significant. These individuals weren't just casual acquaintances, they worked for Diddy, handling his daily operations. Their testimonies could shed light on private moments and alleged abuses, filling in gaps and providing a fuller picture. Did they witness the behavior firsthand? Were they ever asked to cover up incidents? The specifics they reveal could be critical. The growing number of witnesses also raises the stakes. Legal experts agree that consistent narratives from diverse perspectives, personal and professional, strengthen the prosecution's case considerably. This puts added pressure on the defense to discredit multiple people, which becomes exponentially harder as the testimonies build. So what might Aubrey reveal? Many speculate her testimony could unveil professional dynamics mirroring the personal control Cassie described. If Diddy's behavior extended beyond private relationships into the workplace, it would reinforce the prosecution's portrayal of him as a man who thrived on dominance and intimidation. The mounting testimonies also intensify the urgency surrounding the trial. It's no longer a simple he said, she said scenario. It's a growing chorus of voices weaving a compelling, cohesive narrative. That puts enormous pressure on Diddy, who has already faced intense scrutiny during the trial's first week. Throughout the proceedings, Diddy's reactions have become a focal point. Initially, he maintained the calm, commanding presence the public associates with him. But as testimonies grew more intense, cracks appeared. His body language betrayed discomfort, tightening jaw, shifting posture, whispered exchanges with his lawyers, signaling that the courtroom pressure was getting to him. One particularly tense moment came when explicit texts and audio evidence were introduced. His usually composed demeanor briefly faltered, eyes narrowed, and posture stiffened. The jury noticed this shift, understanding that the evidence was hitting home, not just for them, but for Diddy himself. The courtroom's atmosphere grew even more charged during Dawn Richards' testimony. Observers described the air as heavy, nearly suffocating, as she recounted harrowing details of alleged abuse. Diddy, once stoic, visibly tensed, his frustrations simmering beneath the surface. When he finally lost composure, leaning into his defense team, whispering furiously, it was a stark departure from the powerful image he's long cultivated. Such moments don't go unnoticed by jurors. When a defendant's carefully constructed facade cracks, it humanizes them in a complicated way, revealing vulnerability but also undermining their projected strength. For someone like Diddy, whose career has been built on control and charisma, these cracks can be devastating. This trial is about far more than celebrity scandal. It's shining a light on the often hidden realities of abuse and power imbalances in relationships, especially where fame and influence come into play. Cassie's resilience in speaking out, despite intense scrutiny, including pointed cross-examinations about her past, highlights the courage survivors must summon. As the trial moves forward, more witnesses like Aubrey and former employees will take the stand, peeling back additional layers of this complex story. The defense faces the monumental task of contesting a growing pile of corroborated testimony, a challenge that intensifies with each new account. For Diddy, the question now is whether he can maintain his composure under mounting pressure. Every reaction, every slip, chips away at the public image he's fought so hard to build. With bombshell revelations still expected, this trial is far from over, and the next chapters could redefine everything. Ultimately, this case serves as a powerful reminder to stay informed, support survivors, and never let stories of abuse fade into silence. The courtroom drama is just one part of a much bigger conversation about power, control, and justice. Stay tuned, because the next phase of this trial could change the narrative in ways no one sees coming.